Welcome to another episode, everyone. Don Lemon was arrested by the Trump regime. Don Lemon is a former CNN reporter. He was fired from CNN, but he has a report to go out. He has a right to go out and cover the news. But Trump, the FBI, DHS, they all banded together to arrest Don Lemon. They had threatened to arrest him a few days ago, a week or so ago, over an interview that he did, and they followed through with it. Let's get into it. This is crazy. Everyone should be outraged. This is Adam Mockler.
We have some wild breaking news to report, and today is a new low for not only the Trump administration, but for America. Former CNN journalist and friend of the show, Don Lemon, was just arrested by the Trump administration for legal actions that he took as a journalist. We've been saying for a while that independent journalism was the one variable the administration did not consider because they've been attacking law firms, they've been attacking colleges, they've been attacking mainstream media, they attack individuals, but we have been out here polling, it looks like 200 million views over the past month we pulled on this channel alone, on the Adam Mockler feed. So we are really pushing the truth. And now the administration is scared. They are scared of what we are building, and they are trying to strip away our constitutional rights to report on the ground. Don Lemon seems to be their first victim to test and see how the public reacts, and we need to react. A very quick moment of respect for Don Lemon for the work he does, a moment of respect for how much he's put on the line over the past few decades, and now let's break down what happened because this is some absolute un-American, unconstitutional, authoritarian BS. Journalists have the right to report, to record, and as I'll show you in just one moment, what Don Lemon was doing in this church was not harmful whatsoever. He was literally interviewing the people who work there to see what they were thinking about what was going on. This is constitutional.
And you have a right to do that. The only time you are committing a crime is if you stop being a journalist and then get involved in whatever the protest may be or what have you. But you have a right to have a journalistic approach and interview anyone and report and cover the news that's going on. That's your constitutional right. But again, this regime cares nothing about the Constitution, absolutely nothing.
Protected. It is legal for a journalist to be observing, filming, interviewing, reporting, or documenting under the Constitution, even if the crowd begins to get unruly. Now, where it crosses over into a crime is if you go from observing and recording to then participating and coordinating in the criminal part. Don Lemon never did this. He was just a journalist on site, as I'll prove to you in just one moment. As the news reports, journalist Don Lemon was arrested overnight. His attorney and multiple sources told CBS on Friday. Now listen to this. A source familiar with the matter said a grand jury was impaneled Thursday. The FBI, Homeland Security, and a law enforcement agency within the DHS were all involved in the arrest. How many units do you need to take Don Lemon? Don Lemon was probably like in his slippers, about to go to bed. This is not a dangerous human being, but the Trump administration needs to act like he is so they can continue to fit their pretext of arresting/murdering people they deem not safe. So they called Renee Nicole Good a domestic terrorist. They then called Alex Preddy an assassin, a domestic terrorist, and somebody who wanted to inflict maximum damage. And now the administration is referring to Don Lemon as a terrorist or domestic terrorist who is inflicting damage on domestic property. None of this is true. They are using this as a pretext to strip away your rights. Some really quick news. I'll be on CNN tonight.
And Adam is correct. The administration wants to know and see how the American people are going to react to this sort of news. And if everyone stays quiet and says nothing, for the most part, then they will continue to arrest journalists, brutalizing journalists and everyday folk, everyday American citizens who are out there protesting ICE and what is going on in the country. If you do not react and respond to this arrest of Don Lemon, it's just a test.
Abby Phillips show at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central, and we're going to be debating this topic. So if you want to see that live, check it on CNN tonight at 10.
It's like in the same way that he did Jimmy Kimmel when he spoke out, really not even against him, just said whatever he said about Charlie Kirk, which wasn't even anything derogatory, and then Trump shut him down, made moves to censor him, and really had his show taken off air until everyone was outraged and reacted and responded to that. And they put his show back on air. And this is the same sort of situation. If everyone reacts and responds and say you have no right to arrest Don Lemon for exercising his constitutional right, then it's going to go away. If not, then expect more of the same.
p.m. Eastern. Pam Bondi released a statement directly claiming that she's the one who ordered this. Attorney General Pamela Bondi says, quote, "At my direction, early this morning, federal agents arrested Don Lemon, Traherne Jean Cruz, Georgia Fort, and Jamal Liddell Lundy in connection with the coordinated attack on City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota. More details soon." Now, here's where the Trump administration finds itself.
Attack in connection with the coordinated attack. Who did Don Lemon attack? These other people that she named. Traherne Jean Cruz, Georgia Fort, and Jamal Liddell Lundy. Who did they attack? What are you talking about? Pam Bondi. MAGA maggot.
In a bit of a trap. Now, first of all, arresting Don Lemon, a well-liked American journalist, 10 months before the midterms, especially when we have on video that he committed no crimes, will be very, very unpopular. This arrest will already be unpopular. But on top of that, it's very likely illegal. They tried to arrest Don Lemon, if you remember. They tried to arrest him about a week ago, but a federal judge shot down the arrest warrant. The federal judge stepped in and said, listen, if you want to arrest these 5 people, that is okay. These 5 people were trespassing and were obstructing and were very clearly breaking property, damaging property. But if you want to arrest these 3 people, Don Lemon and his producer and his team, we are not going to let you do that. So the judge allowed only some of the warrants to go through, meaning Don Lemon was still a free man. But the DOJ, we're now learning, freaked out behind the scenes and was contesting this, was pushing back, was trying to get this magistrate judge to change what he said, even though that's not how it works. Generally, if you want a warrant to go through, you just have to resubmit.
Look at all this. They didn't push this hard to get Charlie Kirk's killer. They all behind the scenes pissed off and mad because the judge did not sign off on Don Lemon being unconstitutionally arrested, illegally arrested. And they're upset. They want this man arrested that bad. Homeland Security, the FBI, DHS, all banded together to go arrest Don Lemon. Really? You don't have anything better to do with your resources, with the taxpayer dollars, than to go arrest Don Lemon. But this is all designed to censor you, to shut you up from speaking out. He speaks out against Trump and this racist MAGA regime all of the time. And Trump is an authoritarian. He's going to do anything that he can to shut it down, if you allow him.
A stronger case, not bully the federal judge. So they have been bullying the federal judge into letting them arrest Don Lemon, and now they decided to just make the move. Statement from attorney for Don Lemon, Abe Lowell. This is from Don Lemon's attorney. Quote, Don Lemon was taken into custody by federal agents last night in Los Angeles where he was covering the Grammy Awards. Don has been a journalist for 30 years, and his constitutionally protected work in Minneapolis was no different than what he has always done. The First Amendment exists to protect journalists whose role it is to shine light on the truth and hold those in power accountable. There is no more important time for people like Don to be doing this work. Instead of investigating the federal agents who killed 2 peaceful Minnesota protesters, the Trump DOJ is devoting its time, attention, and resources to this arrest, and that is the real indictment of wrongdoing in this case. So well said, thank you. The unprecedented attack on the First Amendment and transparent attempt to distract attention from the many crises facing this administration will not stand. Don will fight these charges vigorously and thoroughly in court, and we will be behind independent media as a whole, continuing to push the truth on a daily basis. But the point made here is very poignant. This administration is very clearly asking you not to believe your own eyes when it comes to Renee Good and Alex Preddy, who they both defined as, quote, domestic terrorists. They are asking us to quite literally cover our eyes and accept.
And Keith Porter Jr. And I must say, because, there's no footage of Keith Porter Jr., not to say that that's the reason not many people are mentioning him or mention him when they mention Renee Cole Good and now Alex Preddy. But really, it's just because his life doesn't matter to the powers that be, to the sick people in this nation. His life doesn't matter, but it matters to me. So mention Keith Porter every time as well, Jr.
their narrative. That didn't work, so now they're getting more desperate. They're arresting journalists with a few intentions. Number one, they want to silence Don Lemon. Number two, they want to send a message, a quote-unquote chilling effect, to other journalists as to what could happen, but we will not let that stop us. Make sure you drop a like and make sure you subscribe if you appreciate the work of independent media. I'll also link Don Lemon's YouTube below if you want to follow him and wait for his response once he gets out. I'm sure he'll have a video response at some point over the next few weeks. But the administration wants to silence Don, create a chilling effect, and they also want to distract the general public away from their botched cover-up of Alex Preddy and Renee Nicole Good's execution and have people focusing on this. But the reality is, what Don Lemon was doing when
cover-up, because the video evidence does not lie in either one of those cases. Again, no video evidence with Keith Porter Jr., only reports, and we can't believe anything that comes out in these reports because we know that they lie all the time in these reports. It's been proven time and time again. But this is nothing but a distraction. They know that everybody's going to be talking about Don Lemon and his arrest, and they're thus keeping the focus off of the atrocities that is going on in the country. That's all it is. That's all this is, and a way, again, to censor you and shut you up and stop you from covering this stuff if you don't agree with the administration. And so they figure about arresting Don Lemon. This will send a message to the rest of the American people that you need to get in line with this, or you will be next. And so everyone needs to fight back against this tyranny and say, no, we will not be next. We will not be silenced. We have a constitutional right to assemble and protest. But that's not even what Don Lemon was doing. He's just covering the news. But if he were doing that, he had a right to do that as well. With everything that's going on in the country, they devote all of these resources to arrest Don Lemon. Everyone needs to be outraged.
He was on the ground in this church was not illegal. I've already talked about the constitutional aspect of it, that if you are a journalist, you can cover things and it doesn't become illegal until you start to participate in the crime. You can observe, you can film, you can interview, you can report, you can document the events as they unfold. It's quite literally journalism 101. Like think about this. If every journalist, let's just take ABC, if every ABC journalist got arrested because they were simply filming something illegal that happened and they were in the proximity, then there's no point in having First Amendment rights. And you can just arrest anybody for being in the proximity whatsoever. But now perhaps the most ironic part of this all is that when you actually watch Don Lemon's interviews that he did in this church, during this church protest that he was covering, he's mainly giving attention and giving a platform to the people who were against this type of demonstration. So the people who were in that church, who are sort of right-wing, who are Christian, who are not a part of the protest, Don Lemon was interviewing them. He wasn't there holding hands with the protesters going, yeah, storm it. No. He was trying to figure out what the people inside the church were thinking. Take a listen.
What do you think of this?
I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship.
But there were folks who will say,
I have to take care of my flock.
okay, but listen, we live in there's a constitution and the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here to worship Jesus.
Yes.
That's why we're here.
Yes.
Okay, that's why we're here. Okay. That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
and love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to?
Yeah. Love Jesus, but hate black people. I'm sick of these hypocrites always talking about how much they love Jesus. Lynch a black man on Sunday and lynch a black man on Saturday and then go to church on Sunday. I don't want to hear this. They're all fake Christians. I love Jesus. No, you don't. You're sleeping with your daughters, your mothers. You're out here in the world killing people. You're sick. You're sick. Stop. You don't care nothing about Jesus. You're sick. Stop lying.
As a
no
Christian.
one is willing to talk.
Okay.
I have to take care of my.
I mean, Don Lemon is willing to. Don Lemon is right there having a good conversation, talking to this guy. So when this guy says no one is willing to talk, he's wrong. Also, I think this is a really good illustration of what Don Lemon was doing there. If I played for you a video and Don Lemon was like standing on top of this keyboard with his shirt off, like smashing everything, that would be one thing. That is not what we see. Don Lemon was there in a journal.
They don't care. Now they're going to try to make it seem like he was pressuring this individual, who don't want these individuals out there protesting. You're talking about Jesus Christ so much, Have you prayed for Alex Preddy, Keith Porter Jr., and Renee Nicole Good? Have you prayed for them? Has your church prayed for them, donated to their funeral? You don't care nothing about them. And that's what the people are out there protesting about, is their killing. But Jesus Christ, man, here, he's not worried about the protesters protesting unlawful killings. He's worried about going to worship his form of Jesus Christ. Get out of here, you hypocrites.
Capacity, interviewing, filming, talking to people who he disagrees with. I think it would even be different if he were only staying with even if he was filming only the protesters and only interviewing the protesters, that would still fall under the First Amendment, but he wasn't doing that. He was giving a very fair shot and a voice to the people who didn't like the protests that were happening. Here's another video, another example of this. He's talking to not the protesters, but the people in the
How do you feel about this?
I don't necessarily agree with everything that's going on in the Twin Cities right now, but I don't think it's good to fight fire with fire. I think it's good to speak up, and I think it's good to protest, but I think it's better to do it in a peaceful way.
You don't think this is peaceful?
It's trespassing. How would you feel if I went to your house and I started yelling?
I think these people would go inside of anybody's house.
This is a house of God. In the house, people don't yell at each other.
There's a lot of yelling in my house growing up. We still loved each other.
It doesn't necessarily mean yelling is the answer, right?
No, but I think it's the way you work things out is that you talk to each other, you disagree. I think maybe if the pastor would try to calm things down and say, let's all talk.
I think that it's good to talk. I think protesting on the streets is fine, but I think there's a difference between that and then going into someone's property.
No illegal action taken whatsoever by Don Lemon, and we know this. We know this for a fact. As Midas Touch reports, the Trump regime has arrested Don Lemon in its latest crackdown on journalism after he reported from inside a church protest in Minnesota, despite a judge previously rejecting the case against him as unsupported by evidence. Is that not absolutely wild? A judge said, hey, this isn't supported by any evidence, so we can't actually arrest Don Lemon. Like, he was there as a journalist, and yet they still ended up arresting him. I'm going to leave it there. If you appreciate the mission of independent media, drop a like.
Oh, man. Wow. All right, folks, there you have it, man. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Don Lemon arrested. It's just a ploy. It's just a ruse, in my opinion, to distract the American people away from what's really going on in the country. Don Lemon certainly didn't break any law. We can see that. And he wasn't trying to break any law. He wasn't one of the ones protesting. He was just covering the protest. But that's America for you. And they want to censor you and shut you down anytime you disagree with their actions. They want to find a way. They want to make an example out of you. They want to make an example out of Don Lemon. And we must not stand by and allow this to happen. We must disallow it. You can't make an example out of him. He was exercising his constitutional First Amendment right. The Trump regime is out of control. Devoting all of these resources to go arrest Don Lemon. Nevertheless, you have 34 felonies that you've been convicted of for yourself. Put the handcuffs on yourself, Trump. Take yourself to freaking prison. You hypocrite. You criminal. Stay safe, stay free, and power to the people.